You can go ahead.
Yeah, you can go ahead and take roll call.
All right. Cheney,
Here.
Bernock,
Here.
Preston,
Here.
Giff,
Here.
Huddleston,
Here.
Korth,
Here.
Weiss, Whitfield, Davis,
Here.
Ackley, Igardner, 8 commissioners present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Would you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is a public meeting which is subject to the Nebraska Open Meetings Act. A current copy of that law and the rules and guidelines for this meeting are posted on the north wall of this room. And they're also posted online at the Sarpy County website under the Planning Commission page. This evening, the county staff that is in attendance is Jason Kubicek, Don Simon, Kelly Jeck, Kayla Hathcote, Jamie Eastman, and Jose Garcia.
Beth Garber is also in attendance as well.
Okay, thank you, Jason. The next item would be, do we have a motion to approve our March 15th minutes?
I move to approve the minutes as written.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion by Korth, a second by Giff. Please vote.
Is yours coming up? Oh, there we go.
All right, 7 motions for, motion carries.
This evening, under the regular agenda, we have a presentation by Mr. Javier Fernandez, the CEO of OPPD. I'll just give a brief introduction if you don't mind. Mr. Fernandez joined OPPD in June 2017 as Vice President and Chief Financial Officer. He was selected by the OPPD Board of Directors to serve as President and CEO starting in July 2021. With that, I turn the floor over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Chair Huddleston and members of the Commission. Thank you for having me and allowing me to share a little bit of what we're doing at OPPD. Very exciting times, and I've had the honor to speak in this podium in front of the Commission a few weeks ago, and also the Wastewater Agency, and now obviously the Planning Commission. So it is an honor truly to be here. I'm not going to repeat again. My name is Javier Fernandez. I'm CEO of OPPD. I have been in Nebraska with my family. Now this is going into 5 years. Prior to joining OPPD, I was the Chief Financial Officer for the Bonneville Power Administration out in Portland, Oregon, pretty large federal utility. I am here today to provide an update on Power with Purpose, which is OPPD's strategic initiative to acquire up to 600 megawatts of utility-scale solar generation and up to 600 megawatts of backup natural gas-fired generation. This project moves us towards OPPD's goal to be a net zero carbon production by 2050 and really to serve our load, our growing load in the region. One of the beauties of Nebraska is that people are coming, businesses are coming, and we are growing tremendously. And it is our responsibility to continue to provide power, reliable power, affordable power for our customer owners. As you already know, we have already begun construction on a major piece of the Power with Purpose project, which is 2 natural gas peaking plants, or we call them balancing plants. One is a Turtle Creek Station down here in Sarpy County, which is at 168th Street on Fairview Road by the landfill. The other one is in Omaha, we call that the Standing Bear Lake Station, which is at 112th Street and Military Road. Turtle Creek Station is a 450 megawatt facility that will include 2 simple cycle combustion turbines and support structures for generation as well as a substation for transmission. It will be used as an energy balancing station. It is estimated to be used about 15% of the time over the course of a year. These type of facilities are not used all the time, but when they are used, they are incredibly valuable. These are balancing stations that allow us to really balance all the different resources that come our way at different times of the year, of the month, and even during the day. Preliminary grading began at Turtle Creek on August 23rd of 2021, and it continues today. In September of 2021, OPPD executed a contract with Zachary Group as the engineer, procure, and construct, or EPC vendor for both Turtle Creek Station and Standing Bear Lake stations. The engineering and procurement phases are in progress, and planning for the construction phase is underway. Grading has, as I said, started at Turtle Creek and also at Standing Bear Lake Station. In addition to the construction at Turtle Creek and Standing Bear Lake stations totaling 600 megawatts, so 450 megawatts here in Sarpy County and 150 megawatts roughly in Omaha, we have also secured an 81 megawatt solar contract in the Utah area in eastern Saunders County. This leaves us with a balance of 519 megawatts of utility scale solar still needed around the OPPD service territory to complete the strategy. Ideally, we would like to have several smaller solar arrays located in diverse geographical locations. And when I say smaller, the smaller meaning it's not the whole 600 megawatts, but they're large solar arrays. But we would like to break them in different segments throughout the service territory rather than one large solar array in any single county. This is for a number of reasons. One of them is just for diversification, geographic diversification. When you have clouds or storms coming in, having different locations of your fleet makes a lot of sense. It makes us more resilient. In keeping with this goal, our most talented engineers and related work groups are currently researching potential solar land options throughout the OPPD service territory that are close to transmission. This is a very, very important piece. When we are planning generation in our service territory, there are a lot of factors that come into the generation planning. One of the most important factors is transmission. How are we going to connect such generation, not only to our load, but to the entire market that runs from the border in Canada all the way down to northern Texas? It has to be connected and it has to be balanced within that transmission system. This is a fairly lengthy process that also involves engaging outside expertise for their technical analysis of our recommendations. In addition to that research, we must carefully consider and anticipate the cost of the generation interconnection, which I just described, on the transmission lines within the Southwest Power Pool, or SPP. SPP is responsible for transmission planning in its geographic footprint, which spans 14 states, including Nebraska. The focus of SPP's transmission planning has been on developing solutions to meet the current reliability and economic needs of the system. Now, as we look to the future and the transformation of the grid, there is a national challenge with significant multi-year backlogs for the interconnection of new generation, regardless of technology. This applies to solar, wind, gas, batteries, hydro, everything. And this really speaks to the fact that there is a massive electrification happening across the country, and we're all trying to meet that demand as fast as we can, not only with generation but with transmission infrastructure. This is a paradigm shift in the way we must plan the grid going forward, and it is challenging the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, its policies set in place that were decades old. OPPD, SPP, and others around the country must work together to solve this challenge. I stand in front of you today. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission has already published a couple of advance notice of rulemaking where they are considering making significant changes to policies to really expedite and modernize their policies to allow for much better process for transmission infrastructure to be added to the country. Now, as financial stewards of our customer owners' rates, we have to strategically consider all options to balance the high costs of interconnection upgrades with our mission to provide affordable, reliable, and environmentally sensitive energy services to our customer owners. We must look for the most cost-effective interconnections options within our territory. Those are typically located close to our load, close to where our population is. Hence, one of the main reasons why I'm in front of you today. Since September, I have met with Chairman Kelly several times, and I have asked for the opportunity to start anew with Sarpy County to collaboratively identify land that may be appropriate for solar while minimizing the interference with the county's future land use plans. Sarpy County is, I believe it's the smallest county geographically in the state of Nebraska, yet is the one that has the most population growth. So land, there's not a lot of land available, and we must collaborate to make sure that we invest in the right infrastructure without necessarily getting in each other's way for growth. To date, we have had several meetings to rebuild that trust and share preliminary plans. Each meeting we have, I feel that we continue to build deeper trust, collaborate on potential preliminary sites, and continue to invite more interested parties to the table as further information becomes available. As I mentioned earlier, I appeared before the Sarpy County Commissioners on February 1st and before the Sarpy County and City's Wastewater Agency on February 23rd, providing very similar information that I am providing to you today. We are also working in partnership with the Sarpy County Attorney's Office on a technical review of current applicable zoning and solar regulations to explore potential amendments to allow a solar developer to bring a project to Sarpy County. Now, there are three core values that guide everything we do at OPPD, and I believe that they're probably the same that we share with you. And those are, we have a passion to serve, we honor our communities, and we care about each other. It is in the spirit of those core values that today I ask you to offer your support of re-engaging with OPPD in a partnership capacity as we review the possibility of placing a solar array in Sarpy County. Now, let me be clear. We do not yet know for certain that there will even be a Sarpy County solar project. That is yet to be determined. We are not working with any developer to date. Now, our engineers are still working through the process of identifying potential sites. We're working with the county, with the staff. But what I know for certain is that there must be a collaborative approach going forward. When I have information to share, Sarpy County will have it first. We will work with Chairman Kelly to ensure your involvement and the county's board involvement. I made the commitment to Chairman Kelly, and I make the same commitment to you today, that OPPD will not move forward on any potential project in Sarpy County without Sarpy County's involvement. We need to work together. It's a very important lesson we learned, and as leader of this organization, I have committed to do that. I hope that you will strongly consider my commitment to move forward together. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today, a new day to build a strong partnership our communities and our people deserve. I'm happy to take any questions or provide any comments that you may be interested in.
Thank you. Quick question for you here, a couple of quick questions. You made mention you need 519 megawatts in the district. Can you ballpark how many acres that is?
It depends on the land and the topography, but we're thinking that equates to about between 3,000 and 3,500 acres.
So about 8 square miles.
About that, yeah.
Okay. And what is the percentage loss of transmission per mile?
I do not have that information, and it depends on how old the transmission infrastructure is. It depends on weather conditions, temperature. It varies, but there is transmission loss,
yeah.
and our teams have continued to work, and there's new technology developed that eliminates that or reduces that loss, but there is loss. I can get that information to you.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
I have a few questions. Who will receive the energy? Who will receive the energy that is produced from the solar panels?
Oh, great question. Let me just address a couple of things beforehand. So far, to date, every renewable project that we've acquired it through a private developer. So OPPD does not own any of the wind farms that we contract with, and we've done that very clearly because there are federal tax credits that are incentives for private companies to develop this type of renewable generation. OPPD has contracted through a purchase power agreement to buy energy from these sites. And very likely that may be an option that we consider going into the future. There is always a possibility that we own and operate a facility ourselves, depending on which one is the most efficient, economical, etc. But back to your question, who uses that energy? It is impossible to know exactly who uses that energy. The way our system works, we have 2,600 megawatts of generation that we own and operate, and we have almost 1,000 megawatts of generation that we contract with private developers. That's about 3,600 megawatts of power. On a daily basis, we offer our units into the market. We sell all of our power into the market. We sell it all, and then we buy our load from the market. Where the electrons go, it's impossible to tell where exactly they go and when they go. All of our generation goes into the market. Physics can tell you that most of a generation stays as close to the load as possible. The electrons won't travel too far if they're used locally, but it is impossible to know exactly who uses what. We have just enough generation capability to serve our load, and we've done that in a very conscientious manner. In order for us to limit and control our costs, we have been very careful about adding generation that meets our load with a little bit of a margin. That margin ranges between 12%, which is the minimum margin we should have for SPP purposes, all the way to about 20% margin. So most of the generation most of the energy we generate is consumed by our customer owners, but it is possible that some of it is consumed, in places as far as the East Coast or the West Coast, that electrons traveling through the system.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have a couple of comments. One is I hope that the district goes back to educating people on how they can be more energy efficient. It's my understanding, and I don't know if it's still true today, this would be another career ago, that if I left my computer plugged in all night on charge, not using it, it used the same amount of energy as it would take to operate it for a full week. And I can also tell you that my grandchildren and families come to my house, and we don't have enough outlets for all the phones that are being charged, et cetera, et cetera. So I hope that the district will go back and begin to teach people how to conserve energy. I think we built the usage up to our capacity. So it'd be nice if everybody would back off a little bit, and I'm as guilty as anyone. When I heard you say that you generate about 2,600, is that megawatts? Kilowatts?
We own and operate the capacity of 2,600 megawatts. We have an additional 1,000 megawatts that we have purchase power agreements with. So it's a total of 3,600 megawatts.
So if I understood what you said, you sell that to the power pool, and then the power pool sends it back to the system as it's needed across its region.
Correct.
Okay. As you're building gas generation in Sarpy County, and I would say elsewhere, because you are a governmental entity, you do not pay real estate taxes in the same way that everybody else in this room pays real estate taxes. I know you pay your, I'm trying to think, based on your
Sales tax.
well, you pay sales tax, but you also pay
Payment in lieu of taxes.
in lieu of
pilot.
taxes, yes. But that's not even close to the amount that would be generated if property taxes were paid by OPPD as they are paid in other states by private owners. So with that in mind, I ask you that as you are working to build gas generation plants, that you make it a point to work with those businesses that in fact do pay real estate taxes because they are private enterprise, not other governmental entities, and particularly not other governmental entities that do not pay taxes in Sarpy County.
Commissioner Davis, I think that's a fantastic point. There is a strategic advantage of us owning some assets. We do need to have control over some of the most critical assets, so our gas generation station for sure. The pilot payments that counties receive is based on the sales of electricity. I am very happy to report that Sarpy County in 2021, and Sarpy County just got the check a few weeks ago, tax day, from OPPD. Your pilot payments increased significantly, and I may quote this wrong, but it was, you received a more than $1 million more of payments. Part of this is because we're able to attract new business. So all the development that's happening on Highway 50, from the Amazon warehouse down to the Facebook data center and Google data centers, those, I would say, they came in great part because of the work that we've been doing with economic development, trying to attract these industries, especially the data centers. Their single largest operational expenditure is electricity. It's us, right? So to the extent that we can keep their rates low and their bills low, that's why they keep coming. Those sales eventually translate into additional payments to Sarpy County. Your point is taken. It's not the same as if we were to pay all property taxes, which is one of the reasons why I am here in front of you, and I have been talking to the Sarpy County Commission, because there are certain amendments that we are pursuing with the county to allow us to have private developers come in and help us build this generation. If they come in, they pay taxes. They pay a bunch of other taxes, of nameplate capacity taxes, et cetera, and taxes that we would not normally pay. So there is yet, and one of the reasons why I'm here today is to allow for that flexibility to add private developers and work in ways that we have worked really well with them in the past. And again, let me confirm again, we are not working with anyone today in Sarpy County, but I'm trying to advance these amendments so that we can have the environment to bring in good projects to bid.
I appreciate that, but I'm primarily speaking, I mean, it would be great if you have a contractor do it and we get tax benefit from that, but I'm talking about the supplier of natural gas, that it not be another governmental entity that does not pay taxes in Sarpy County.
Yes, so that's an interesting topic. So Sarpy County has different pipelines. Some of them are owned by private gas companies. Some of them are owned by the Metropolitan Utilities District.
Exactly.
And so we're trying to figure out who will serve our gas. We don't have control over picking who does that. That's the Utilities Commission that decides.
But possibly Sarpy County can consider that in their rulemaking or in their rules that they adopt.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions?
I have a couple more. I'd like to know a little bit more about the technology, the solar technology, so I have a series of questions here. I'm wondering about water usage, how much it reduces food production, what happens to the ground underneath, and how do you control that if it's growth, whatever that growth is?
Yeah, great questions. And I don't have all of that information here. We have lots of experts that I would be happy to have them come back and do an even broader presentation. What I can tell you is, contrary to popular knowledge, solar panels, the ground below solar panels is not bare. We work really hard to make sure that we have pollinator habitat. We have there's plants, there's flowers, there's a lot of things that can grow and should grow underneath to help keep that land in good condition. These contracts usually last between 20 and 25 years. At the end of the project, that land, there's an option to return that land back to either farming or develop it, and we need to make sure that the ground remains in good condition. But to your specific question about water use, they don't need water. That's one of the beauties of this diversification of generation. We have a lot of plants today. Our North Omaha station and our Nebraska City station, they are on the river, on the Missouri River. They need water. They need water to cool down the generators. And when there's not enough water, or when there's too much water, we have problems, right? And so having generation that is not dependent on water or on river conditions, be it natural gas generation plants or solar or wind or batteries, help us mitigate risks that we have with this type of natural events. But if you allow us, we can come back and give a more in-depth presentation about the solar panels. Exactly the types of solar panels, that's another question. You read a lot of information about the types of solar panels. We can actually talk about the different types that exist and how a panel on someone's roof may be different than the panel that you put on utility scale installations. We can talk about recycling. We can talk about the safety of the panels. There's been some talk about chemicals and what happens if they leak, right? And so there's plenty of information. Our teams are better versed than I am to talk about those technical issues.
And you touched on the last questions that I have having to do with how do you dispose of the panels and where does the money come from for that disposal? I mean, that it's going to happen 20 or 25 years from now. Mm-hmm. How can we know that there's money set aside to cover the cost of that, so that we as a county don't wind up with that expense?
That's a great question. I can address that last piece. If OPPD were to own any generation, whether it's coal, gas, solar, wind, we have the responsibility to keep everything pristine the same way that we found it. We've been here for the past 75 years, and my goal is for us to be here for another 75 or more. But I understand, in the case where there's a private developer who owns an installation and we're hiring that private developer and just buying the energy, the same question came when we were talking in Saunders County, and there was some hesitation about what happens. Is a private developer, could they just walk away and leave us with a mess to deal with? And OPPD was very, very clearly, we talked to the commissioner and we made a commitment to the commission. In fact, it's in writing that OPPD commits to part of our agreement with the developer is they have to pay for those removal costs. We pay for them, of course, right? They charge us back, but it's part of the agreement. And very clearly, this is the request for proposal process is lengthy because it includes everything from the installation of the panels to the life of the operations and the decommissioning and disposal and recycling. To reinforce the commitment of OPPD, what we did in Saunders County was to commit to come in to the county commission and describe when there were major changes in the solar array, to make sure that the county knew OPPD is paying attention. And if there was ever a change in ownership, for example, right, that we would come in and we would present, and there's something that we are doing our due diligence to make sure that we are holding the owner of the facility responsible to clean the site just as if it was our own site. So, but a very, very important point to emphasize and to remind the public that It could be a private developer doing these, but ultimately it would be for OPPD and for our customer owners.
Right.
And then I have to be tacky, but decommissioning is built into your rates because it is built in by the developer. So the customer pays for it.
That is correct. That is correct. So from an accounting perspective, there's this thing called asset retirement obligation, where we have to start, depending on the facility, depending on how much it's going to cost and the length of time for retirement, we have to start setting money aside for that retirement, very clearly.
And I say that because I think sometimes people forget that ultimately we, the residents, the citizens, we who pay our bills, pay for that. And I think it's important that people remember that.
That is correct. Well, we the citizens, we own OPPD. We own the facilities, and we own the responsibility of taking care and disposing of those assets too. So very, very good point.
Well, from time to time, we do have subject matter experts come speak to us. So I think if it's all possible, if you could arrange for that, I think some of the members would love to ask some more technical questions.
Absolutely. I oftentimes joke with a member of our team that she travels with a solar panel in her trunk, and so this is something that it's a little bit of a show and tell, but it's important,
Yeah.
I think, for us to see and touch and feel exactly what this looks like.
Yeah.
And so, yes, we will work with
Yeah, I would
Jason.
appreciate that too.
Great. Well, we really appreciate you being here this evening, and three important aspects of collaboration is open communication, a respectful consideration of each other's position, and just having a good process. And I think both your organization and Sarpy County have all of those, so we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Next, under the regular agenda, I'll just go over some guidelines for the rest of the audience for the regular agenda public hearings. So during our regular agenda, I will introduce each case, and then staff will present each detailed application on the agenda and provide a recommended action or actions. After staff has presented a case, I shall open the public hearing process. All individuals who provide testimony shall state their name prior to any testimony. 5 minutes are allowed for the applicant or representative of the applicant. A portion of this time may be reserved for any other representatives of the applicant. Then 5 minutes are allowed for other people to speak, if there are any. After this public testimony, I shall close the public hearing process. The proposed matter may be debated and discussed amongst members of the Planning Commission. Commissioners may question any person without the requirement of rebuttal, and there's no time limit for this discussion. Following the Planning Commission's discussion of the case, I shall ask the Commission what action they wish to take. A recommendation for action from a Planning Commissioner can be to approve with changes, to disapprove, or to table. And then following acceptance of a motion and a second, I will call for a vote of the Commission, and Commissioners should vote when called upon. So the second item on the agenda this evening is Brooke Shelbourn has submitted an application for consideration of a special use permit.
Thank you, Commissioner Huddleston. The applicant is asking for a special use permit for a home occupation major to allow an in-home hair salon from a personal residence. The applicant is asking for a special use permit. Access to the subject property is from Greenleaf Street. Let me get up the... Greenleaf Street within the Millard Park South subdivision. The site has a driveway that is approximately 32 feet wide. The applicant is planning for 2 customer parking stalls and 1 stall for the residents. The floor plan exhibit for the salon, which is attached to the recommendation report, has a door labeled has a door labeled outside entrance, and this is the main entrance for the clients. Property owner and the applicant will be the sole employee. The applicant is responsible for attaining necessary certifications for approval from the state of Nebraska. Business hours for this location are Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Any on-site operations of the home occupation shall be carried on entirely within the principal structure of the property. Staff recommends approval of the special use permit for a home occupation major to allow an in-home hair salon from a personal residence at 16210 Greenleaf Street in accordance with the operational plan submitted by the applicant and the comments in the recommendation report, as the request is in compliance with the Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan and zoning regulations. Let me know if you have any questions.
Any questions for staff at this time? Hearing none, I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there a representative of the applicant who would like to come forward?
Hello, my name is Brooke Shelbourn. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I'm proposing to have a special use permit so I can operate a salon from my home. I've been doing hair for 9 years licensed. I have 3 beautiful boys, and it makes it a lot easier for me to run around and do what I need to with them when I can work out of my home and make my hours for myself and for my family.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would care to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'd like to close the public hearing and would ask if there's any discussion or if anyone would care to make a motion.
I would move that we recommend approval of the special use permit. I'm sorry, I need to back up here just a bit. For a home occupation 1 major to allow an in-home hair salon from personal residence at 16210 Greenleaf Street in accordance with the operation plan submitted by the applicant and the comments in the recommendation report as the request is in compliance with Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan and zoning regulations.
Second.
So we have a motion by Davis, a second by Korth. Any further discussion?
2 women who know the feeling.
Please vote.
Eight votes for, motion carries.
Thank you. Agenda item 3 this evening is Alan Hans has submitted an application for consideration of a final plat.
Alan Hans, the landowner and applicant, is requesting approval of a final plat of a subdivision to be known as River Ranch. The applicant is proposing 9 single-family lots of 2 to 3 acres in size and 1 outlot. The county board approved a preliminary plat on December 12th, 2017, based on the recommendation of the Planning Commission and staff. On June 19th, 2018, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the final plat with conditions, and the applicant has met the conditions made from that Planning Commission meeting. Water will be served from a common well, which will be located on Outlot A, and I'll just zoom in there, Outlot A. And that will serve all lots from this common well. Pursuant to Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan's residential development decision matrix, a community septic wastewater treatment system was proposed in the 2018 proposal and recommended for approval by that Planning Commission. On March 5th, 2022, staff held a meeting with neighbors from the adjacent Meadow Oaks neighborhood. At the meeting, it was decided investigation was needed regarding whether an individual septic system could be more effective than the community system. Staff asked JEO, a third-party consultant, to provide comments regarding the individual septic options. The applicant has provided an exhibit with individual septic systems laid out for all 9 lots, shown here, which meets the separation requirements. It is attached to the recommendation report as well. As each lot is improved, the homeowner will apply for an individual septic permit through the Sarpy County Building Department. A certified septic installer is also required, and the as-built document must be submitted to the NDE within 90 days. The Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan suggests in the residential decision matrix that a community septic and community well be implemented. The intent of this guidance is to create an easier connection to a public sanitary sewer system when and if a sewer system comes available in the area. The Meadow Oaks neighborhood is served by individual septic, and River Ranches is one of the last portions of developable area in the immediate area. These factors make it unlikely that a sanitary sewer system will be implemented. So the owner is compliant with all grading permit requirements and Section 37 stormwater regulations of the Sarpy County zoning regulations. Portions of the subject property are located in the floodplain. Any development or man-made improvement in the floodplain must comply with all applicable requirements of the floodplain district in the Sarpy County zoning regulations. So one access point from Reha Road leads to a proposed cul-de-sac street, as shown in the final plat here. Improvements to Highway 50 at Reha Road. Pull up this exhibit. This was attached to the recommendation report as well. Improvements to Highway 50 at Reha Road and at Highway 31 are in various planning phases with Sarpy County Public Works and Nebraska Department of Transportation. One-page update, as you see here, is also attached to the recommendation report. So staff recommends approval of the final plat of a subdivision to be known as River Ranch, lots 1 through 9, and Outlot A, subject to the conditions and comments in this report. The proposal meets the requirements of the Sarpy County zoning and subdivision regulations and furthers the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.
With that, I'd like to open the public hearing and ask if there's a representative of the applicant.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Mark Westergaard. I'm with E&A Consulting Group, 10909 Mill Valley Road, and with me tonight are also the owner and developer, Alan Hands, and Pat Sullivan, who's the attorney for the project. So this has been around for a long, long time. 2010, it first came in front of the Planning Commission. And that plat didn't go forward. There were some changes in the zoning requirements in Sarpy County. And it has since gone to Planning Commission for both the preliminary and the final plat. You might ask why we are here tonight, since it was approved by the final plat was approved by the Planning Commission previously. That's simply a recommendation of staff to kind of emphasize the fact that everything is done. Everything, all the conditions have been met. There was a lot of issues on this project. We had some neighborhood opposition, and you'll probably hear from several of those tonight. We did meet, as Jason said, March 5th via remote meeting with some of the neighbors. One of the main things that came up was this issue of the community septic system. And it seemed to everybody that it was a preferable method to go with individual septics, and we are quite okay with that, and we hope that will be more palatable to the neighbors also. And Sarpy County is okay with that and has found a method to look at their zoning criteria and note that the community system is more of a preference or a recommendation and not an absolute. So we appreciate the staff working with us on that. Over the years, there's been some erosion control issues out there, which we've tried to stay on top of, worked with Sarpy County, and those are now well under control. We had a lot of discussion on the well situation. Alan had a well on site that was adequate. He has also drilled another well that also produces, so he will have a backup system as far as a well. And the septic systems that we propose, hopefully individual if the Planning Commission agrees, meet the required separations from a private well, which this is classified as. So those are the main things that happened. Well, I guess I mentioned Reha Road too. There were some drainage issues on Reha Road, and Alan worked with Sarpy County. Sarpy County had a project to improve the drainage in that ditch along that road, which has also been taken care of now, and things function in a much better manner down there. There was oftentimes when Reha Road would become inundated in a major storm. So those are the main things. We just want you to know that we've met all the conditions, and we're back here for sort of a formal secondary approval, and we'd appreciate your consideration of that.
Thank you. Just a point of clarification, I might have missed this in my presentation, but we'll allow 5 minutes for a representative of an opponent, and then it's 2 minutes for any other individuals who would wish to speak on the action after that. So is there anyone who would care to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'd like to close the public hearing, and would just ask the commission if you have any further questions or discussion at this time, or if you'd like to make a motion.
I have a question for Mr. Westergaard, and that is Reha Road, is that going to be moved right away, or are you still going to have the, I'll call it the ramp as you get off on Highway 50?
That will really depend on the state. It's primarily a state project. Probably there would be some county participation too. My understanding is that project, which is in its planning stages, but it's not in the 1 and 6 year plan of either agency right now, so it's something that's out there a little ways. We've worked with staff, and it will be contained in the subdivision agreement on some methodology that there would be some contribution from this development should that ever occur, and it seems we've got a workable solution for that.
And then another question I have is, will the county collect the sewer fee from each of these lots?
There is no sewer fee. There's a stormwater fee for the South Sarpy Watershed Partnership. But since it's going to be private sewer, it's going to be septic, there's no sewer connection fee in this area. There will be ASIP fees for arterial street improvements collected as well, though. So,
I guess I misunderstood. I thought we collected that on every lot that.
When it's in one of the sewer like the sewer agency or in the Sarpy.
Already in the agreement, then.
In the agreement, the subdivision agreement, or?
Well, in the agreement on south. On the other side of the ridge, it has to be included already, or identified, maybe I should say.
Since it's not in the sewer agency area, though, it wouldn't be.
That's the key, okay.
This is outside of any sewerable area. It's in the rural development zone.
Okay.
So that means it's not planned for sewer, and yeah, so it's okay to be private sewer. Yep.
Okay.
So, no connection fee.
Anyone care to make a motion?
I will. I recommend we approve the final plat of a subdivision to be known as River Ranch, lots 1 through 9 and Outlot A inclusive, being a platting of attractive land located in part of tax lot P3A, together with part of the southwest quarter of tax lot T2, both located in part of the southwest quarter of section 11, together with the part of tax lot 13A, located in part of the southeast quarter of section 10, all located in township 12 north, range 11 east of the 6th prime meridian, Sarpy County, Nebraska, subject to the conditions and comments in this report. The proposal meets the requirement of the Sarpy County zoning and subdivision regulations and furthers the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion by Korth, a second by Giff. Any further discussion before we vote? Please vote.
Eight votes for, motion carries.
Thank you. Agenda item 4 is Hullabaloo, Inc., care of Brandon Miller, has submitted applications for consideration of a rezoning, a preliminary plat, and a final plat. And I believe that as we consider these, there will need to be separate motions for each.
Right, yeah, there'll be 4 motions total. But I'm going to present them all together.
Okay.
I think we've learned that that's the easiest thing to do. Okay, so this is just showing the area. I'm going to kind of go through here. Brandon Miller with Hullabaloo Incorporated is asking for approval of a preliminary plat, final plat, and rezoning to allow for expansion of Falconwood with that required conservation area set aside. In addition, a special use permit to allow for development and expansion of Falconwood Park. And I'm just going to kind of ad lib here real quick because I was having a conversation earlier. The reason we're doing the platting is really because we needed to rezone and get everything to be ag for the special use permit, and our rezoning requires platting. So that's really, it's a really pretty straightforward platting otherwise, but then the special use permit is also in here. So the site is currently developed with various buildings, parking areas, and open spaces. The property currently houses the existing Falconwood Park and former Gene Epley Park. These sites were damaged during the March 2019 flood event due to a failure of the federal levee on the property of the Gene Epley property. Gene Epley Park closed at that time. Minor repairs were completed as needed in the existing Falconwood Park, which has since reopened, and the Gene Epley Park was purchased by Falconwood or Hullabaloo, and repairs will be completed in phases on the former Gene Epley Park structures. The applicant currently has an active special use permit for a commercial recreation and camping facility with a maximum capacity of 5,000 for events on tax lot D1. The proposed special use permit would replace that existing special use permit. The plat will create a single lot with appropriate conservation set aside as an outlot, and so you can see that lot 1 is this entire area there, and then Outlot A is the area south of the levee, which is this hatched area here. Access to the site is off 8th Street and Allied Road. Highway 75 and or Highway 34 provides access to 8th Street, Allied Road, and the site. So that's visible on Exhibit G. So this exhibit shows that. The internal roads will remain private and maintained by the applicant. The internal roads shall allow for two-way traffic with appropriate surfacing. Temporary waste facilities will be provided during the outdoor concert and festival events and shall be removed at the end of the event. Falconwood contracts with a sanitary wastewater removal service to pump RV wastewater tanks on a weekly basis. Lot 1 on the proposed plat is not in the floodplain due to the federal levee along the Platte River. Outlot A on the proposed plat is in the floodway. Get to Exhibit A here. 3 wedding private event activity sites instead of just the one currently on here in this area on the northwest corner. That's the existing. There'll be 2 wedding event centers added, but when added, those are renovated existing buildings. So there's one here, number 7, and number 9 as well is an open air facility. 2 of the buildings require those renovations because of the flood event. Other events would include the continuation of drive-in movies, outdoor concert festivals, and indoor concerts. There are approximately 2,000 parking stalls located on the property. The owner is proposing to lease property outside of this location for parking during large events that would add 3,200 stalls and include busing to the site. Annual rentals of the RV camping site, 30 in total, would continue under the proposed permit. Campers are allowed to remain year-round since the location is outside of the floodplain. Falconwood Park would be a year-round operation allowing for events, cabin rental, and wedding events. Hours of operation are 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. The following day, with outside music events ending at midnight, 12 a.m. All guests, other than those in the rental cabins, would depart by 2 a.m. There are a number of buildings shown in Exhibit B that will not be repaired at this time and will be secured prior to the start of special special use operations at Hankey Hall and Woodland Pavilion. Any improvement and use of the secured buildings would require an amendment to the special use permit. Alcohol sales for on-site consumption during indoor events at the 3 halls is being proposed as part of the special use permit activity. The applicant is in the process of obtaining proper liquor licensing from the State Liquor Commission, and a special liquor license would be obtained for any outdoor concerts or large festivals. Sarpy County Public Works comments include that a traffic study is required if an increase in capacity over the existing 5,000 within the special use permit is requested. The study should include intersections along the proposed exit routes and in the vicinity of any remote parking areas. Staff contacted the Sheriff's Office for a history at this property. The following is a summary of that verbal account. Since 2017, when the original Falconwood special use permit was granted, there have been no reports from neighbors. 2 calls came from the owner, and 1 call came from a patron and was later retracted. Sarpy County Lieutenant Swoboda advised he had met with the owner regarding planned activities in the past, and he has no concern over expanding the venue at this time. I'm going to go to this. Just a little screenshot of there's a festival called Outlandia that is going to be the first large event that Falconwood Hullabaloo is planning. It's a 2-day event, August 12th and 13th. The event will have 12 acts. It'll have 1 stage at this point, and it is an all-ages show. So ticket sales will be capped to below 5,000, conditional to the traffic study results and county board approval of the special use permit. So, and I'll just further explain that. There is a condition in the recommendation that there's a traffic study that we just received today that we asked for in order to go above 5,000 capacity. And so the results of that traffic study will be reviewed by Public Works, and that will determine, the condition is stating that that would be what we would like to determine how much capacity would be allowed for the site at a time. So I'll read the recommendation here. Staff recommends approval of the application for rezoning from light industrial and agricultural farming to agricultural farming and the preliminary and final plats for the subdivision to be known as Lot 1 and Outlot A, Falconwood, subject to the comments and attachments in the Planning Department recommendation report. Staff also recommends approval of the special use permit for the operation of a commercial recreation area known as Falconwood Park pursuant to the operational plan submitted, 5,000 person limit for large concerts and festivals, and for as long as the Hullabaloo Inc. Is the owner and operator of this operation. And here's the condition. Upon submittal of a traffic report and review by County Public Works, large event capacity could be increased as an amendment to the permit. Staff makes the recommendations as the requests are consistent with the comprehensive plan and meets the Sarpy County regulations. Let me know if you have any questions.
I have one. Just to make the record clear, you said that the levee failed in 2019. I assume it's been
It's been repaired.
Was it
Yep.
improved or just repaired?
It was improved. To what extent, I don't know, but it has been improved and been out there. Maybe the owner may have some information on that.
Thank
The
you.
levees were increased 3 feet in height and widened by 12 feet.
Thank you, Colin.
Thanks, Colin.
Can I clarify something? I think Mr. Kubitschek presented on item 4 as well, or excuse me, item 5, the special use permit, as well as the rezoning, preliminary plat, and final plat. So when you open the public hearing, can you open all of them?
All of them?
Yes.
Okay. So I'd like to open the public hearing for rezoning, preliminary plat, final plat, and special use permit. Is there a representative of the applicant who would like to come forward?
Hello, I am Brandon Miller. This is my father, Jim Miller. And just one thing I wanted to clarify, this definitely is not our first large event. That's the first one planned for this year, but I started Hullabaloo Music Festival in 2011 at River West Park in Elkhorn, relocated it to what was Sokol Park back then in 2013, and we have held it there up until 2019 was the last year. Pandemic stopped us doing another one. But we've done, large events and festivals down there for, 9 years now, so. Yeah. Just wanted to say that.
Good point of clarification. I should have said in the Gene Epley space in that area.
Yes, this will be the first one we utilize both properties together. Do you want me to say some more? Sorry, I guess, do you want me to say anything, or?
No,
do you have any
it's up to
questions
you.
for us? Okay.
If you're comfortable with what you said, that's fine. We may call you back up with questions.
Okay. Well, I could give a brief summary. I mean, we've been operating that property solely since 2015. We leased it from the Sokol board. Then we purchased it in 2016. And in 2017, we came through this process to rezone it and get our special use permit. And then now, like was mentioned with the flooding in 2019, we rebuilt and reopened right away. They did improve the levees. Not only did they increase the size of it, but they also tore them completely down and rebuilt them with a clay material, so they almost are like rock now. So the levee system has been vastly improved, which gave us the confidence to purchase the Salvation Army property. And we are just looking to do more of what we're already doing, which is using it, for 2 more wedding venues so we can operate 3. The property is a mile long. It's 5,000 feet from side to side, so there is good distance, and we're expanding further away from any neighbors or anybody that's nearby. We're getting further, east of everything that's already there. And, we're going to continue driving movies, and we're going to, do concerts and events, but that's not what we do primarily. I mean, weddings is our primary business, is what we do with 95% of our season. Like last year we did one festival and we did 6 concerts. So it wasn't like, concert, wedding. I mean, it's primarily weddings. We do usually about 2 or 3 dozen drive-in movies, and then we usually do about 6 to 12 concerts each year.
Yeah, so when Brandon talks about primary, on the wedding, I just want to stress that we do 70-plus weddings at our Falconwood location, and we're investing a whole bunch in the new property because Brandon gets calls all the time, and we're already booked. And if we had another venue, and prior to the flood, we were looking for another venue. We had spent some time looking in downtown Omaha and as far north as the Boy Scout camp. Remember? So, I mean, that's. I just want to make sure that everybody knew that we were clear there.
The buildings that are being left there, what are you going to do to secure them from people who are going to wander off from the event? It will happen.
Yeah, so we have already gone through and replaced all the glass and all the structures that we are securing, and then we're also going to be locking them all with a key that will go to everything. So everything will be secured, locked. I mean, we're repairing all the damage to any of the structures that was there. And that was one thing, there was broken windows everywhere, but we've already had Rainbow Glass come through and repair all the windows and all those structures.
Yeah, and prior to that, we demoed everything too, took all the old out, and so got rid of all those issues as well.
So then will you use those vacant buildings, I guess, for storage and things like that?
Probably not for now. I mean, eventually we'd like to continue to remodel most of it, but it's just this has got to be completed in phases. We're not developers with deep pockets, we need to get business rolling, get the wedding venues going, and then as we can generate income, then we can turn around and put it back into other existing structures there. But yeah, like you said, they're demoed down to the studs inside. We got rid of all the dirt. I mean, it was no longer mud or flood stuff because it's been dry for 2.5 years now. But we went through 80 dumpsters of just getting everything out so we can get rid of all that stuff. And now they're just basically outsides are all intact, insides are just demoed to studs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anyone else who would care to speak to this item this evening?
Hello. My name's Catherine Bettine. I don't want to keep you long because I'm sure you've had a long day. There's just a couple things. One, the traffic report. Allied Road, the road that they're talking about, is a 2-lane road used by semis to carry bridge parts back and forth. It leads to 8th Street, which then goes to Highway 75. In leaving that, you have to cross, if you're going west or back to Omaha, 4 lanes of traffic. Not a safe route when you're talking about more than 5,000 cars. Their parking that they have set up and the lease that they have approved allows for 3,000 cars plus next to Catfish Restaurant. They are offering a shuttle and transportation to their venue from their parking site. The problem exists that at Catfish and their parking site, there is a way for individuals to walk past Catfish, cross the railroad tracks, through the trailer court, and then to Falconwood. There are no sidewalks. There is no lighting. There is no security. This is not a safe thing to do. We have property directly across from the entrance of Falconwood. We have had individuals come over and say, is this where the wedding is? We have had people from their campgrounds come in, say, can we use their lake? Can they use our lake? We have talked, we have been good neighbors. We have talked with the owners. The owners have taken care of those issues. But when you're talking about 5,000, 10,000 people at a site in the middle of the night till 2 a.m. in the morning. They can't be everywhere. I ask that you reconsider this, look at the traffic report, and allow us to continue to be good neighbors with Falconwood.
Kathy, how do you support your
Anyone else care to speak to this matter?
So, I guess, are you guys at the 20 Club?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And you, sir? What, sorry, what's your name? Lonnie. Which cabin are you guys at? Okay. All right, well, I'm sorry, I wish I would have heard more from them before this. So I didn't know there was any issue with people still going over to your lake or anything. Oh, okay. Well, so we have a pond now, so we are trying to develop the pond at this property, so hopefully that attracts everybody, plus we now have river access. So I think that hopefully won't be an issue, and plus now, everybody that's there is there for the whole season, so they kind of get the rules and everything. And when we do these larger events, which like I said, we have done now for a long time, the one that we're talking about that Jason mentioned, Outlandia, is being produced by the same gentleman that produced Maha and started Maha. We are going to have a lot of security. We're going to put them up at and there will be security and parking attendants at the auxiliary lots that were mentioned. And again, that's not our primary thing. That's 2 days out of the year, but there will be a ton of staffing. I don't know if you saw on the operation plan, there is a graph and it talks about how much staff is at each event. I mean, for those large festivals, there are going to be, between all of us, there will be hundreds of staff at that event. It's going to be a lot of moving parts, and everybody's going to know what they're going to be doing, and we have parking attendants, T-shirt security, law enforcement, which we've already contacted. We've talked to the fire departments, and we're going to be orchestrating this whole thing, to make it as smooth as possible. And the traffic study has mentioned some of those things and making sure that we have, either security or law enforcement's posted to make sure people don't go specific ways. And that's what FHU is the group that did the traffic study, and they do it all the time. They look at all those situations, and one of the things in there is to make sure there's no foot traffic. So we'll have to stop anybody that tries to walk out and walk away.
Stop and walk it down Outlet Road
That's what we would have to do, yeah.
on a public street.
Yeah.
I'd like to see how that's going to go.
Well, I mean, that's what the police, the law enforcement would be there for. Obviously I can't stop somebody, but if a law enforcement officer tells them, hey, you can't walk, you have to wait for a shuttle, then, hopefully they listen.
So if I wanted to leave our property and walk out on Outlet Road, there's
So,
That's not, but the festival's not at your property. sir.
if we could just stay with, you can address us.
Oh,
And
okay.
then if you folks would like to talk about this, maybe you can talk about it after the meeting.
Okay.
So what I wrote down was concerns about traffic, pedestrian movements in particular. That's what I wrote down. So could you share with the commission your response to those concerns?
So we just received that traffic study today, and we have, to spend a little more time with it to digest it, as does the planning department. But I do know that in there, they did say that one of the things that they want to see is nobody walk down Allied Road to get to any of the auxiliary places. So we have contacted busing companies like First Student to contract if we need it. I mean, and that's the thing too, like we're getting way ahead of ourselves here. That I don't even know if we're going to need those auxiliary parking lots anytime soon. As of right now, we haven't sold enough tickets or parking passes, because we are selling parking passes along with your ticket so we can know how many vehicles we have coming, so we can plan for this. And as of right now, we're nowhere near enough people and cars to be able to move to an auxiliary lot. But we want to put it all in there, in place in case we do need it. And then, we will work with all the local authorities, our security. Like I said, we already spoke with law enforcement, and, have plans in place with them that we're working on and developing to make sure that we get traffic out of there. And we've had events before, like Fish Fest, 100.7, the radio station did their Fish Fest at our property, which did between 3,500 and 4,500 people. We did Hippie Fest last year, which is like a glorified junk stock, but it's just a traveling version. That's a national thing. And, in the past, we have not had to really have people walk down the road. There's really no other places for people to park, but at our property, now that we're adding in these other lots, like I said, we are working with First Student and other charter companies to be able to get rides to and from those lots.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who would care to speak to this matter?
Sorry, I forgot to mention, also a concern is they are, along with bringing back Salvation or Gene Epley and adding these venues, they are increasing their toilet facilities and water use, which is understandable and good. The problem that we have is I don't know where that waste goes, because there is an aquifer that runs from the Platte through Gene Epley and to our lake. I'm not sure with all those extra facilities what that effect will have on the aquifer.
Anyone else? If I can just, hold up. Anyone else who would, in addition to these folks, who would care to speak to this matter? With that, I'd like to close the public hearing, and I would ask the commissioners what questions you have at this time.
I have a question for staff. So the initial three items, the rezoning, the approval of the two plats seem pretty straightforward, and to the extent there's discussion, it's about the special use permit. So when we grant the special use permit, how do you rope in the parking issue on another property? So we're granting a special use permit to use this facility for these events. What is the permitting mechanism to go out under that permit and use these other parking lots for that event, and how does the county control that use beyond the special use permit?
So that use, it just so happens, is in the Bellevue ETJ, so it's not in our jurisdiction. It is obviously related to these facilities, but they would have to go and get any applicable permits through the city of Bellevue for that. But we did require them to show us some version of a lease with those landowners, and so that's what we received from them. It's just that lease agreement.
So you're approving that capacity based on parcels you don't control from a zoning, with your zoning authority. So
yes.
You've got a kind of cross-jurisdictional use there, and you can't control those parcels though, right? Under your special use permit.
I can't control those parcels under my special use permit, no.
So how would you control the issues they raised? Just law enforcement or?
Requiring security, requiring the off-duty police officers. The traffic study is really going to help us navigate some of those issues as well. I did get to take a look at it. There are recommendations to, how the traffic moves and how things are managed from a security standpoint. But the use portion of it, I don't have the ability to control that.
So do they go before Bellevue to get any permission to use those lots, that parking? Or is that just okay?
What we could do is have them provide we could make it conditional to provide a letter from Bellevue stating that this is allowed, or it's either allowed as a principal use or it's just going to be allowed.
I was saying more, if I may, that if it's a condition of your permit that they go out and use this or they lose the permit, that's what I'm getting at. So you can exercise control over it through your permit, not that you can go out and zone that property, but if there's not sufficient parking there or something changes there, you're able to revoke the permit. Does that make sense?
Right, yeah, yep, that nexus.
Sorry, it took me 3 times.
Yeah, I believe that makes sense. So we could make that a condition of the permit. Does that suffice?
You're granting a permit based on their representation that they're going to use this extra or this property outside our zoning jurisdictions for a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as that's in the permit, I think you still have the leverage of the permit to ensure that that actually happens, even though you don't have any authority over the zoning authority over that property, right?
Okay. Yeah, that's how I understood it as well. Yeah, from the get-go on this.
Jason, can you clarify how many vehicles we're actually talking about? Because I've read different numbers.
That will come through in the traffic study, and if I'm kind of going off the top of my head here, I believe it was 3,200 with, do you recall, Brandon, on that?
On the other properties or on ours?
Let me clarify your question. How many total vehicles for what type of capacity are you?
Perhaps the capacity, the numbers that I was asking to be clarified, it seemed like a range from 5,000 to 10,000.
For a total overall capacity. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think in the traffic study, they're proposing a 10,000 capacity in the traffic study. In the special use permit as proposed here, they already have 5,000, so we're approving that to continue. So the traffic study is basically telling us what will happen with 10,000 people on the site, and then the Public Works Department will take a look at that. And if it's sufficient at 10,000, if they're comfortable with what's happening and what's being said in the traffic study at 10,000, then they can approve that. If they want to pull it back a little bit and be where they're comfortable at, it all depends on that review of that study.
Allied is paved, correct?
Correct.
2-lane.
2-lane paved.
Is it 66 feet, 50 feet? Yeah, 66.
I can get that information, but I don't believe it's 66 feet total. It's soft shoulders.
Okay, so it's probably 50 paved and then,
Yeah. I believe so, but
Okay.
I'd have to check on it.
that's really the job of traffic engineers to know that. But
Yeah.
my thought was in case there was some kind of difficulty, is there room for cars to get out of the way or go around? Or
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what one of our concerns was if there is an incident, how do we get around these? There are potential options for accessing other properties to exit out of here. It was described in some of the exhibits there. So,
But as we sit here tonight, they already have approval for 5,000 vehicles.
they have a special use permit from 2017 that says 5,000 people on the property of Falconwood, not
Right.
Gene Epley,
Right.
that area. So.
Okay.
So there's been a couple of different things going around between 5,000 vehicles or 5,000 people. Do we have any idea how many vehicles I'm assuming this is all 5,000 people, correct?
5,000 people is the current capacity. We didn't put a vehicle limit on the initial special use permit. The traffic study will tell us what cars amount with 10,000 people.
So I'm looking at Exhibit F, and there is a lot of temporary fencing that you're putting up. Is there any additional barricading or fencing that can be done to keep people from, I guess, moving into different areas that aren't allowed? Sure.
So we are working with Resource Rentals to bring in a lot of extra fencing. I mean, they're actually purchasing more because it's more than they even have, and they do some of the biggest events because there's going to end up being miles of fence put up around this to contain people and keep everybody where they're supposed to be, keep them from trying to get off property through any routes that they're not able or allowed to exit. So we are going to be fencing the heck out of this place. And if you want me to clarify some of the people versus parking things, so our current capacity of people on the Falconwood Park before we purchased the Gene Epley Salvation Army Camp is 5,000 people. We have enough parking on site for 2,000 between Falconwood Park and the Gene Epley Camp. So then where it gets confusing maybe is because when you add in the other two lots down Allied Road, there's 3,200 more stalls there, so it brings the total to 5,200 cars are possible amongst all those three areas. So that's where maybe 5,000 cars, 5,000 people is getting a little crossed there. But yeah, there's 2,000 on Falconwood proper, 3,200 on the other two sites, and when you look at the traffic study, and based on our ticket sales from persons to parking, because they have to get a parking pass. Right now, we've been hovering around 3.65 people per vehicle because we are charging extra for parking to try to A, encourage people to carpool, but also B, we are setting up an entrance and a specific area for Lyft and Uber drop-offs. Last couple of times I've gone to concerts out of town, I'm not driving down there. I'm not dealing with it. I take a Lyft or an Uber. They have a Lyft and Uber drop-off station. So right now, if we had 10,000 people, it'd be around 3,000 cars. But again, I'm reiterating, none of us thinks we're going to be around 10,000 people yet. When we first had the meeting with Jason and Donna, God bless her soul, I know she's not dead, but she did a lot for us over the years. We had, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. So when we had originally talked to her, they said, hey, let us know everything you're planning on doing, and that number was something that we're targeting years from now. This year we realistically think we're going to sell more like 4,000 to 5,000 tickets with a hope for 6,000 tickets, and we want to keep it growing and be able to expand this, as we go. So we've asked for that in the traffic study because I don't want to keep going back to them and paying buku dollars to get these traffic studies done every time. So we've asked for this number, and planned for these things to grow. So.
Okay, for clarification, in your permit that you're asking for 10,000 people. Is that correct?
Yes, subject to the parking study that we just got today.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, okay, but you currently have 5,000.
Correct.
And you're asking for 10 so that you don't have to, as you said, keep coming back.
Yeah, and the also funny part about this is when we started talking about the property and I told them I was looking for 10, they were like, holy cow, and I'm like, well, I've already been doing 5 at Falconwood, and they're like, you have? And I said, yeah, and I'm happy that you're surprised by that because that means there haven't been any issues. You haven't heard of any problems, and that reflects in our report from the sheriff's office. We've always kept things safe.
And just to clarify, you're okay having the special use permit tied to your operations if the county determines that there are issues with traffic or are issues with pedestrian traffic and so forth. You have a really nice operational plan, but you understand that if they have issues, they can pull your special use permit because of that.
Pull the whole thing or just that specific piece? Like if there's like an issue at a drive-in movie, can they go, oh, we're going to pull everything out so you can't do weddings anymore? Or is it just if there's an issue with a specific thing?
Its special use permit is revocable by the county board, depending on, what the circumstances are.
That's the whole thing.
It's, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, we've been doing events down here since 2013, and as we grow, we want to grow the safety of it. We're looking at, stepping up everything as we grow, to make sure things remain as safe as we've kept them this amount of time.
Okay. Go ahead. I had one question for you. And the area of concern that was spoken of as far as pedestrians who might try to park over at Catfish and walk across the creek through the mobile home park and come in that way to the northwest corner of your property. I mean, I could see that being a possibility that people would do that. I know that route. I've been back in there. There's certainly some obstacles with the railroad tracks and the creek and everything else that are back in there. It's not an easy walk, but that doesn't mean somebody wouldn't try it. But following up on what was just said, if there are issues that arise in the future on some of these bigger events whereby you do have some problems with somebody sneaking around security or whatever and trying to make that route, I think that, maybe my position on that later on might be that you would have to somehow put some kind of a security gate around that northwest corner of your Falconwood property to make it such that it's not that convenient for somebody to do that if they're dumb enough to try.
So, we have been dealing with that for years because we have been doing concerts and festivals, and I always have security posted on that line right there along Allied Road, going back to that northwest corner, because I have personally caught people trying to stumble down through the ditch, over the creek, through all the trees, over the barbed wire fence, and I've been standing there waiting with a flashlight and turning it on, like, come with me, and bringing them up to the front and having security deal with it, and usually finding them getting a ride or an Uber or a Lyft, or calling if need be for a law enforcement officer, or go ahead and buy a ticket, and sometimes they just pull out their wallets. Oh, I just didn't know that was the entrance. Here's the $40 for the show. So I mean, it's been something we have dealt with. We know some of those weak points, but we have seen it. This isn't the first event that we've done here, so we've kind of learned a lot of those things over the years. And yes, they could come through, but yeah, it'd be a heck of a jaunt through the, trailer park there, and yeah.
I'm just, basically what I was suggesting there is that, if this board were to come back later on and say, hey, those problems are persisting, even as hard as you're trying, there are problems back in there, and, God help us, somebody got hurt back in there or something like that, and if we were to come back and say, hey, you have to put up a 6-foot fence, you've got to run it 300 feet this way, whatever this board might decide, just to know that you would understand that, and you'd be, you would approve of that, knowing that your permit would be contingent on that happening.
Absolutely.
If it was going to continue. So,
for sure. Cool. Anything else? Well, you got me?
I have one. How frequently do you have events that would require using that auxiliary parking? It sounds like that is...
This year, maybe one.
Okay.
Maybe one.
Most of what you do, you have parking on site.
Yeah.
Accommodate.
Again, because the primary things that we do are the weddings, the drive-ins, the camping, and then concerts, but smaller scale. Like I said, last year we did 6 concerts out there, but they were all around 500 or 600 people, so, and then we did one festival last year that was 4,500 people. But we have plenty of parking on site that we didn't have to even get through half of our parking at Falconwood Park to be able to even accommodate the 4,500 that came last year. So, I mean, this is all for us to be able to make sure we have plenty of space.
So is the traffic study aimed more at looking at the impacts of those larger events that require the offsite parking?
Yeah. Yep.
There aren't any issues that you're tracking with what they do day in, day out there on site?
The extent of on-site is really, we want to make sure the roads are wide enough to fit two cars next to each other. And, you know, we've got a line in the permit talking about that, but it's all really focused in on the larger capacity event.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? No? No? Anyone care to make a motion with regard to the rezoning recommendation?
Can I make a comment?
Absolutely.
This is in regard to the special use permit. There's been a lot of discussion about the traffic, and the staff recommendation is great, but it has the 5,000 person limit for the large concerts. But if you guys are considering increasing that amount, I'd ask that you basically use the staff recommendation, but then also add another recommendation that says the special use permit could be increased up to 10,000 people if the traffic study supports the increase as determined by Public Works. So I think that's really clear. If that is the direction you want to go, that's really clear to the applicant and the public of what your recommendation is. And I'm happy to read that again. So, any questions on that piece of it? No, okay.
That's the last piece that we do, though.
That is the last, correct. That would be the last motion on the special use permit. That way, I think everyone's real clear on what your recommendation is related to the traffic study, because I think they only just got it today, and so no one's had a time to really digest it.
Anyone care to make a motion on the rezoning?
Sure, I'll make a motion. I move to recommend approval of the application for rezoning from light industrial LI and agricultural farming AG to agricultural farming AG on the property legally described as tax lots C, D1, D2, and government lot 5 with accretion ground, all located in section 26, township 13 north, range 13 east of the 6th prime meridian, Sarpy County, Nebraska, for the subdivision to be known as Lot 1 and Outlot A, Falconwood, subject to the comments and attachments in the Planning Department recommendation report for this item, and based on finding that this recommendation, or this request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and meets the Sarpy County regulations.
I second that. Go ahead.
We have a motion by Preston, a second by Davis. Any discussion before we vote? Please vote. Kelly, my automatic voting isn't working right now.
Chairman Huddleston, how would you like to vote?
In favor?
We have 8 votes for, motion carried.
And I will move to recommend approval of the preliminary plat for the subdivision to be known as Lot 1 and Outlot A, Falconwood, subject to the comments and attachments in the Planning Department recommendation report for this item, as this recommendation, or this request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and meets the Sarpy County regulations.
Second.
We have a motion by Preston, second by Davis. Please vote.
Chairman Huddleston?
In favor.
We have 8 votes for, motion carried.
Okay, and I will move to recommend approval of the final plat for the subdivision to be known as Lot 1 in Outlot A, Falconwood, subject to the comments and attachments in the Planning Department recommendation report for this item. And I make this recommendation as this request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and meets the Sarpy County regulations.
Second.
So we have a motion by Preston, a second by Davis. Please vote.
Okay, Chairman Huddleston,
In favor.
Mr. Giff,
Kelly, mine didn't show up either, but I vote in favor.
and Mr. Preston.
In favor.
We have 8 votes for, motion carries.
Would someone care to make a motion with regard to the special use permit?
I'll give it a go here. I'd like to make a recommendation for approval of a special use permit for the operation of a commercial recreational area known as Falconwood Park, pursuant to the operational plan submitted, being a 5,000 person limit for large concerts and festivals, and for as long as Hullabaloo Inc. is the owner of and operator of the operation. This recommendation is upon submittal of a traffic report and review by the Sarpy County Public Works for large event capacity. Large event capacity could be increased as an amendment to the permit, and that the SUP could be increased to a 10,000 person limit, subject to the approval by Public Works and the results of the traffic study. Make this recommendation as the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and meets the Sarpy County regulations.
Sorry. I should have clarified my earlier comments. I think what I had told you and that line there about submittal of the public traffic report is a little contradictory. So your motion has, and that's my fault for telling you to read everything. Your motion actually has that when they submit the traffic report, it could be increased as an amendment to the permit versus what I said, which was the special use permit could be increased up to 10,000 people as long as the traffic study supports it. So they're kind of contradictory. One is requiring a further amendment, which I think would mean coming back through this body, and the other one would mean that if Public Works reviews the traffic study and approves that 10,000, that when they get to county board, they could put in 5,000 or 10,000, depending upon the county board's approval. So what this results in is, what would you like to do? Do you want them to come back for an amendment from the 5,000 to 10,000 and come back through this public process? Or do you want, upon analysis by Public Works of the traffic study, that number, 5,000, could be increased? And that would all be done, this would be your recommendation, all be done before they go to county board. I mean, I think at the county board level, we need to know a definitive number. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Okay, that is a lot of information,
So would
I
you
know.
like to
so-
amend your motion?
I got to think of how I would say this here. So, what we're suggesting is that the capacity could be increased, amended to 10,000 person capacity with approval of the Public Works Department.
Right, correct, with
If
the
it's
traffic
supported by
study.
the traffic.
Correct. If that is, if you don't want them to come back through the public process versus they've got a traffic study that they just got today. Public Works does need to analyze it, of course, and as so long as the traffic study supports that and is approved by Public Works, then that number could be increased from 5,000 to 10,000 or somewhere in between at the county board level. And I'm sorry to make it so confusing. I just,
Okay.
I think when you've got public here, I always like to try and be a little more clear
Right.
than.
So should we start this whole amendment, this whole recommendation over?
Yeah, I think if you just, you pull back your, you officially pull back your motion, then you
yeah.
can restate it. And if you restate everything up to the, let me just, here. You restate it up to that last sentence or staff needs, and then you add in that special use permit could be increased up to 10,000 people if the traffic study supports the increase as determined by Public Works or something.
Okay. Without going through the public, should we state that?
No, I think that's okay, and then
Okay.
we'll know that.
We don't need to worry about this down here.
Correct.
Okay.
So, sorry about that, I told you to read everything.
Yes, okay.
And then you would go back and read that.
And then this at the
Make-
end.
Make the recommendation
Right.
as it's consistent.
Right, I got you. I'll try it one more time here.
Sorry.
You got this.
I'd like to rescind my recommendation,
Previous motion.
previous motion.
Yes.
Okay. And I'd like to make a new motion. I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of a special use permit for the operation of a commercial recreational area known as Falconwood Park pursuant to the operational plan submitted, being a 5,000 person limit for large concerts and festivals, and as long as the Hullabaloo Inc. is the owner and operator of the operation. This SUP could be, special use permit could be increased from 5,000 to 10,000 person limit, subject to approval by the Sarpy County Public Works and with support of the result of the traffic study. I make this recommendation as it is, the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and meets the Sarpy County regulations.
Yes.
You did it.
Yeah, sorry.
Congratulations.
Does anyone have any questions for me?
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Giff, a second by Korth. Please vote.
Chairman Huddleston.
In favor.
8 votes for, motion carried.
Thank you. Moving on to the correspondence agenda, are there any commissioner reports this evening? No? Planning department's reports?
The only thing we had was Cook Edition, went to county board and was passed, the final plat. That's all I've got.
And then we have a meeting on May 17th, is that correct?
Before that,
Yep.
I do have a question. The baseball building blight, what's happening with that?
We have, JEO is helping us with a study to look at comparable jurisdictions and how they handle it. We're going to get that study finalized here, hopefully within the month, at least a month, or at the most a month, I would say. And then that's kind of where that goes. We'll make a recommendation on where to go with the sports and facilities, where to go with that amendment, and then kind of address where the actual applications will go at that point. So,
Thank you.
I guess we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
thank you.
You didn't want to finish up that.
Oh.
Just about the time.
Actually, while you were doing that, potash dumps so much nitrogen in there that it has monitoring wells all over that area.
Yes, and they're.
Somebody peeing and pooping there is the least of our
I live right
issues, you
there.
know?
Yeah.
I scribbled a little bit of this. Yeah, yeah, and then you got core slab structures to the north. They're not the issue. On top of that, the traffic studies really are not the issue either, because the potash plant is under contract, the Joanne's Powers salt farm is under contract. They're going to move so much industrial into that area anyway. They're going to have traffic lights, road improvements, everything falls under Bellevue everywhere. It's not us. So this is not our issue. This is a minor.